Was the idea of a 4 or 5 nanometer switch to always copium from the very beginning?
What it do, bruh? Talk of the town, Nintendo, Doc Trey still holding it down, still make the best games, and you know this, bro. It's the truth. If you don't like it, you can have that seatbelt.
Alright, so before we get started, if you are not subscribed and you are interested in Nintendo and Nintendo Switch 2 in particular, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you like the video, drop the like and let me know what you think in the comment section. Now, this particular video may not be very popular, but I don't care. And the reason why I don't care is because there's certain times where you have to make a video just because things need to be said. It may not be the most popular thing to say at the time, but it's something that needs to be said. And this needs to be said. And the question is, has a Nintendo Switch 2 SoC being 4 or 5 nanometers always been copium from the very beginning? And I'm starting to think it has been. Because we've been hearing for the last couple of years why it was impossible for the Switch 2's SoC to be Samsung 8 nanometers. It's just impossible. It can't be. It would run too hot. It would have an hour-long battery. It's impossible. We've been hearing this for years. Literally, years. We've been hearing for years just how much Samsung 8 nanometers sucked and how this was the worst case scenario. And if this happened, it just means that Nintendo just doesn't get it. And then we were going over evidence, supposedly, evidence of why, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the chip was a 4, well technically 5, nanometer TSMC chip. Despite the fact that all of the actual evidence, the real hard evidence, said the opposite. This was a case of people just hearing what they want to hear and believing what they want to believe. We know that the chip was taped out around 2022 or 2023 at the latest, probably 2022. We know this. We know that this chip was developed around the same time as other Ampere NVIDIA chips that happen to be Samsung 8 nanometers. We know for a fact that this is an Ampere-based chip. All Ampere-based NVIDIA chips are 8 nanometers. But for whatever reason, everyone was convinced that Nintendo would make a custom Ampere chip that's not 8 nanometers. Why? Because of actual evidence? No. It's because of copium. Because of hopium. Because they hoped Nintendo would do that. Yeah, let's not pay attention to the actual evidence. And the thing that actually kind of annoys me is, you guys know about the huge NVIDIA leak. Now, most of us, we were not able to actually read the contents of that leak. So we were taking what was in the leak, the information of the leak, we were taking people's word for it, for what they read of the leak. Well, apparently, there was hints in that leak that led to Samsung this whole time. But people decided to ignore it in favor of TSMC 4 and 5 nanometer copium. This kind of reminds me of, not as bad, but this I'm getting deja vu because this reminds me of the NVIDIA and AMD situation with the original Switch. Where people just, no matter what the rumors, what the actual evidence, people refuse to believe that it was NVIDIA. They refuse to believe that it was Tegra. No, it has to be AMD because that's what makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense to go with NVIDIA. AMD is what makes sense. Look what happened. Look what happened. These same people, when the Switch revision came out, oh, it's a 16 nanometer chip now. That means it's going to be way more powerful. Nope. Better battery. And it's pretty crazy because it just shows that sometimes you just have to go with your gut. And I know there's going to be somebody watching this video. Trey, you're the one that supposedly found evidence that it could be 5 nanometer. I remember you made the video. Yeah. I did make a video because everybody and their mama, all these tech experts, there's no possible way it could be Samsung 8 nanometer. So I started looking into TSMC and did a video based on what I found. And it's crazy because I found way more evidence on Samsung than I did TSMC. And actually the only real evidence, the only real somewhat evidence of the Switch 2's SoC being TSMC is the video I did. And even that was reaching. There's a reason why I have like 5 or 6 videos on Samsung and 8 nanometers and 1 on TSMC for Switch 2. You know why? Because it was never a TSMC. That's why I couldn't find anything besides that one thing that was reaching. All these people that are giving you information about the Switch 2 that have stated any information about the SoC's process have said 8 nanometers. Every single one. That's why it's best to just go with your gut. And my gut, from the very beginning, before even this TSMC junk was going on, I said, I'm not sold on 5 nanometers for Switch 2. Simply not. I'm not sold on it. That's why you got to listen to your gut. And I know probably you guys, well, it's not confirmed yet, Trey. You can't say, like, come on. You know deep down. You know deep down this is 8 nanometers. You know it. You know it. Now you'd be like, well, there's a chance it could be 5 nanometers from Samsung. Yeah, there's a slim chance, but let's be honest with ourselves. It's 8 nanometers. The timelines match up. It just matches up. Everything matches up. The time matches up. The chips designed around the same time match up with 8 nanometers. The architecture matches up with 8 nanometers. The fan in the dock matches up with 8 nanometers. It being bigger than the Switch OLED matches up with 8 nanometers. It's like it's time to just accept that the Switch 2 is an 8 nanometer chip. It uses an 8 nanometer SoC from Samsung. And it's not that big of a deal. And all these people telling, oh my gosh, it's going to be horrible if it's so behind the times. If it's so behind the times, then why are we getting all these supposed rumors of all these big freaking crazy looking games coming to the Switch 2? Obviously they worked it out. Or obviously 8 nanometers ain't as bad as they was telling you. and isn't as outdated as people would like you to believe. Let me show you something here. People are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're still using 8 nanometers in 2025. Check this out. This is an SoC design engineer from a company called Visio Next. Look what it says. Worked there from October 2022 to present. They taped out 2 projects in Samsung 8 nanometer. 2 of them. Recently. 8 nanometers. Samsung. 2022 to present. Low power architecture analysis. So obviously they don't run too hot. They're still using them for new stuff. October 2022. When did the Switch 2 SoC tape out? 2022? Yeah. So obviously 8 nanometers isn't quite as outdated and crappy as people would lead you to believe. Maybe Nintendo and Samsung and Nvidia were actually working on making this chip as efficient as possible. I mean, I don't know, maybe. Who knows? Just maybe. Maybe it's yet a different variation of 8 nanometers from Samsung that's even more efficient. They already got like 3 versions of it. And every version gets more efficient. Maybe Nintendo's version is a specialized version of 8 nanometers. It's time to stop. Time to stop with this discussion. Stop with the copium. Switch 2 is more than likely 8 nanometers. And it's not a big deal. Have that seat.